Here to share some memories of our friend Larry King, host of The Big Picture. Holland Cook is joining us now. Holland, I mean, what a gem to hear Larry's start in radio. Just like you got that in common. Do you think the start in radio is part of kind of what made him such a great storyteller?
Oh, he sure was. And my first Larry encounter was in radio, 1980. It was my very first management job at a radio station in New Hampshire. And Larry was our overnight show, and I was smitten by his technique. The art of the short question. I remember he asked Bob Hope, "Who do you think is funny?" And he asked David Duke, "Don't you ever get tired of hating?" So fast forward 1984, I've worked my way up the management ladder, and I'm running WTOP Radio, the news station there in Washington. And Larry was our overnight show. And what a star. He was in Ghostbusters that year. Fast forward to 1991. I put Larry King's radio show on the audio system via satellite on United Airlines. We had a little tech startup company. It was called USA Today Sky Radio. So Larry is live on airplanes, and I heard him interview a passenger who swiped the credit card through the old GTE airphone. And Larry asked the passenger, "Are you in first or coach?" And the passenger says, "I'm in first class, Larry." And Larry says, "How's the meal?" So he was always on his game.
Larry was certainly quite a character. I think the common theme I'm hearing from everybody that's ever worked with him, encountered him, crossed paths with him, I feel like it's been kind of a celebration of his life, his legacy, and all that he's kind of given us for the 65-ish years that he was in the media. I mean, it's a time immemorial, Holland, that anybody can remember. Can you ever remember a time that you turn on the radio or the TV and Larry King wasn't on?
It's hard to, and I think it was a year ago last week, we did the very first show at RT's Los Angeles studio, which was literally being constructed around us. And the first guest on the first show was Larry King. And I'll admit it was sobering to see him arrive in a wheelchair. This guy has confronted so many health challenges all his life. And just before the interview, he leaned over the desk and he whispered to me, "Holland, the doctors say I'll be walking again very soon." But once the lights went on, the guy was sharp as a tack. And we have the interview. That very video is pinned at the top of the page if you go to youtube.com/thebigpictureRT. And we got to put in a plug for our portable TV app because the King may be gone, but long live the King in probably hundreds of great Larry King interviews that you can watch and listen to on demand there.
Oh, certainly. And I want to go back a little bit to the radio days. I mean, TV didn't really become even remotely popular until the mid-1950s. I think it was 1951. It was in 12 million or so homes. Larry was the king of radio. He was the first one to get a big show syndicated across the country. Talk a little bit about his style, his voice. What captivated people when they heard him?
You are right about the historic nature of his show, and it was safe because it was the middle of the night. Stations, which were still largely local, would let the all-night show come in from the satellite. And now there's very little local programming, and all this syndicated stuff is very angry political talk. Rush Limbaugh is the tent pole, but it's pretty much the same show they're all doing. And what Larry did on radio seems quaint now, but I think it would be more useful. It would be more in tune with the shift that we are happily seeing from the mood of the Trump years to the mood of this new administration. I would love to hear somebody more curious who was, as Larry was, a great listener. And Larry used to say, "I never learned anything while I was talking." And you turn on talk radio today, and it's monologue. The questions are speeches disguised as questions, and the guest barely gets a word in edgewise. So I think it's time for a renaissance of what he did, and he left us a great example that we will always enjoy hearing played back.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of schools, like, for example, Arizona State University, they have the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. I'm surprised. I don't know if maybe there is, but maybe Larry is the subject matter of a journalism school somewhere. But if they don't have one, I think they need to, don't you think?
Yeah, he was a big influence on me, as was the late, great Tom Snyder. And what they both did was ask the obvious question. Some considered Larry lazy because he never prepared for the interview. And if he had an author on every night, how many books can you read? But he made the case that he deliberately wanted to approach it the way his listener and his viewer was, as an outsider. And he would ask the obvious question and often get an answer that the author wasn't spitting out all prepared on the rest of the book tour. It really was a gift for him to approach this like the average guy he was. My phone's been ringing ever since we got the sad news about Larry, and I've been doing radio interviews, and they all ask, what was he really like? And I say, you can take the boy out of Brooklyn, but you can't take the Brooklyn out of the boy. He was the real deal.
I'm with you on that one. Here to the king. Holland Cooke, thank you so much for walking us down some memory lane and finding out that you guys crossed paths so many times. What a small world. Thank you for joining us.
Long live the king.
That's right. And don't forget, you can watch the special on this, the last interview with Larry King, this Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, here on RT America.